Happy spring to everyone. I wish you've had a great start. We're gonna start this new season of Fertility and Power Show in 2023. And we have Devorah Kur here. She's a logotherapist, and I know you haven't heard about it if you haven't. So that's a great place to start. So if you have any question, please come and join us. We gotta hear back from you. Okay, we're gonna start. Devorah, thank you so much for your time coming to this show. And
Yeah,
I'm very excited to hear back from you about the logotherapy because that's the first time I hear about it.
right, right,
So just introduce yourself, what you're doing now, and what's your journey until here.
right.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Pantia. And it's wonderful to meet you and to be on your show. So to start off with, actually my journey started really from a place of challenge and difficulty where my father died from colon cancer. And at that time, I was very interested in what the patient can do to help themselves heal. Is everything up to doctors, or do we even have a say? And I became quite obsessed with learning about what is the role of the patient. And eventually I changed careers and I went to study reflexology. And here I worked with a lot of infertility clients. And when I use this body modality to help them with conception and be able to have a healthy pregnancy. And sometimes these women would come to me and they would say to me, like, Devora, why can't I have a baby? I'll be such a good mom. I just want to have a baby. And they'd speak with such pain. And I didn't have the words or the tools to be able to help them. And I found this very frustrating. And also, if I worked with cancer patients, they would say to me, why do I have to be sick? And I couldn't answer. All I could do was work in the body to help them get their hormones right or work on the immune system or the digestive system, whatever the body problem was. But I couldn't help with the anguish and with the pain. And then I was really privileged to come across a book called Man's Search for Meaning by Dr. Viktor Frankl. And he was a Jewish doctor in the 1940s who was in the concentration camps. And for 4 years, he was in the camps. And he was a neurologist and a psychiatrist, and he was very interested in human behavior. And he wanted to know what it is within us that helps us overcome difficulty and struggle. And before him, there was like a human experiment. Everyone was the same. No one had food, no one had clothes, no one had hair, no one had names, no one had belongings. Everyone was the same. They all ate the same and slept the same. But he wanted to know, how come some did better than others? What is it when everything is the same? What is it inside of us that can help us overcome our struggles and difficulties? And this is what he studied all the time while he was there. And afterwards, when he was uh, released, after the war, he wrote his book now, Man's Search for Meaning. And he speaks about meaning. When we can find meaning in a struggle and a difficulty, then we can almost turn it around and be more empowered. And that word is in the title of your show, fertility empowerment. Because many times, and it's not just that I don't only work with fertility clients, I work with all sorts of spectrum of people who are not well and who are suffering from their challenges and their difficulties. And actually, life happens to everyone. We all have difficulties and challenges. And if we know how to go inside and find a purpose or a reason or a meaning or an inner strength that we didn't know we had before, then that challenge or difficulty which has come to us has helped us to find that or know that about ourselves. So this is something that I learned from his book, which is called Man's Search for Meaning. And the word logotherapy, means meaning in Greek. And what he really was trying to teach in his book was that when we can find meaning, when we can find a way where we can see maybe a future, where we have hope or even have faith or see something about the future, then we can overcome. And he speaks about different ways of not being able to change the circumstances around us. In many cases, in many circumstances, people have illness or they have a diagnosis and they're not able to change the situation. But what he says, Dr. Viktor Frankl, is, well, we are able to still change ourselves, and we're able to change our attitude and the way we show up to what is in our lives at the moment. So we might not be able to affect the fact that it's raining outside, but we can take an umbrella and a raincoat and we can dress correctly and step out into the rain. It doesn't have to be, now it's raining, I'm stuck inside. And I think his message is so universal. It's not just applicable to, the times that when he wrote the book. It's applicable to all of us. And I was so drawn to helping people change the questions that they ask from why me? Like, why can't I have a baby? Why do I have to be sick? Why am I suffering with this disease, right? To what now? And for me, when we move from the why me to the what now, we're able to find a strength inside. And he calls it the defined power of the human spirit, that there is something inside of us that doesn't come out on just a sunny, happy day, right? It actually comes out when we're going through struggle and difficulty, when we are actually connected to something so desperate that we want to overcome, that we learn how strong we really are. So his way of helping is by showing us how to connect to the strength and the tools we already have within ourselves, and using hope or faith or unfinished projects that we still want to complete to be able to help us get to that next stage. So his book was a great like pathway for me to then be able to help my clients on a deeper level, not just on the body level, like let's get the cycle right, let's get the period length, the correct time on the correct date, but now let's also work with the pain around, the hurry up and then the wait, like let's see what happens, then disappointment, and let's build up again, like that cycle. I had the tools then to be able to deal with and help people overcome that the anguish around what was going on, not just the physical condition. And the truth is, we can't really separate the mind and body, because we know that if you're nervous and you're waiting to make a phone call, say you have to apologize to someone, you feel that as a physical sensation in your body. It's very real as in your body. It's something that's in your mind, but it plays out in the body. So the mind and the body are inextricably connected. And we can't just work on the body to get the body right. We have to take the mind and anguish of the soul into the picture as well. And that's when, after that, I went to study bereavement counseling, because I saw so many people going through so much pain, and I wanted to have more tools to be able to accompany people on their journey, to help them get through what they were struggling with and suffering from. And then after that, I studied. I feel like I'm the eternal studier, like the more knowledge out there that I can use for myself and for my clients around me, that just, there's incredible tools out there. So I studied Somatic Experiencing, which is called SE for short. And this is really about trauma therapy, about releasing from the nervous system the stuck energy that gets buried in our bodies, even if we like, I've closed that door, I don't want to talk about it, and I've moved on. But that's still sitting somewhere, and it doesn't have to. And it will come out somewhere else, like if we've heard things like, I shouldn't be crying about this still. It happened 2 years ago already. When we push that down, that's sitting in the system somewhere as unfinished business. And somatic experiencing can help someone just to release the traumas and the pain that is still sitting in the body, and to allow healing to come back, and regulation, homeostasis of the body to return. So these are some of the tools that I use. And I feel that people have go through so many struggles and so many challenges, and there's beautiful tools to help. One doesn't have to be alone in overcoming these struggles and these difficulties, and one can still return back to their own wholeness and healing as well.
So I have two questions. First
Yeah.
of all, how did you deal with your own grief after dying your dad?
Yeah, yeah. So it was terrible. It was absolutely terrible. My father was I think of him as my cheerleader. He was so interested in my life, always promoting me and encouraging me and believing in me and wanting to hear about my successes. And then all of a sudden, he was gone. And I didn't have any of these skills or tools yet. I had to like find my way in the dark. And I feel eventually I did. I actually feel that my life was very, very dependent on my father. And actually, this year will be half my life. He hasn't been around for 26 years. He has not been around. And I feel in the process of growing up, like I was already an adult, I was already a mom when he died. But I felt I was so immature and so needy and dependent on him that I didn't actually live my own life. I was very much reliant on him. And then with the passing years, I feel almost like when I say like to find the meaning, I would never choose to not have him in my life, but that is the situation. He is not there. And what I feel is actually the gift he gave me was like stepping out to allow me to step up and become who he knew I could become. You know, he had all these big dreams for me and he knew who I was, but somehow him in my life, I felt, I felt small or little or young or little girl, daddy's little girl. And when he wasn't there anymore, I really feel I've been able to step up into really being a fuller human being. And I feel he stepped out to allow me to become everything I could. And I feel blessed that everything he ever taught me was there as the cornerstones and the foundations of who I am today. But he gave me the space to actually become even more. So
So
that was a process. Yeah, it doesn't happen overnight.
let's go back to fertility right now.
Yeah,
So a lot of women have
yeah,
miscarriages, and
yeah,
some of them lose their child full term,
yeah,
maybe born dead. This is
yeah,
very devastating because I had it two times, like miscarriages.
wow,
How can we deal with this exactly with logotherapy? What
yeah.
is your process and what is your recommendation when you have a client coming to you and she has the same issue?
So I think dealing with miscarriage and stillborn is a little bit different. And the most important thing to do, especially with miscarriage, doctors don't pay so much attention to it. They're like, wait a month and then you can try again. But they fail to see that there has been a loss here and that there's no kind of ritual of funeral or marking that, this potential never came into being. So when I'm working with clients who, their whole thing is, oh, I need to, get pregnant again. And I like them to just slow down and just be with the part of them that is mourning. There's you're mourning a loss, and there was nothing done to help you, get through that. So if there's a need, for some women, it also depends at which stage of the pregnancy, and everyone's response is different. And sometimes, the partner isn't supportive, or, they feel very alone and lonely in this journey. Like, why am I still crying? It wasn't even a baby I ever met. But there is something deep suffering that needs to be heard. So, firstly, to give a voice and a space for the pain to come out. And when people are witnessed for their pain and they're heard and held in an empathic way, it's very soothing for their nervous system. So sometimes, I said with logotherapy, it's not the why me. Sometimes women will feel, maybe they were punished or they did something wrong, or, why did this happen to them? And there's a lot of questioning, and we must make space for this questioning. But we rather look at what now. Just today I was working with a client whose father died tragically in an operation. He went in for something routine. She didn't even call him before she sent a WhatsApp. She just sent a text message, and he died on the operating table. And she said, this process where she sits today because of this loss has enabled her to realize the loss that other people go through. And she can show up now for other people in a different way because she got the t-shirt, right? She's been through the experience. And she feels that obviously she wouldn't like to have this. She'd rather have her dad. But something she's gained from this is how to be empathic for others. So what we like to do then is just try and help them, firstly, either by doing some type of ritual. I feel a ritual is very important, of marking the fact that there was a little soul that was growing in your body at whatever stage it was, and to just take some time out to be with that's not any longer. And maybe there's something someone wants to do, like write a poem, plant a tree. I've had beautiful things that people have done to honor that little soul. And sometimes gardening is beautiful because potential can come from gardening. Flowers or fruit can be born from that project. Or it can be poetry, or even just lighting a candle or preparing a special meal, but actually marking it, because the role of ritual can be very soothing. So I try and bring up that subject of how, and if they want to, then we explore it more, or if they feel it's too hard or they're not ready to discuss it, then, we leave that. But also to look at, what was in the traumatic side of the loss. There often are unkind nurses or insensitive doctors or invasive procedures, or decisions that were made for them that they couldn't make themselves. There's a lot of trauma that surrounds this as well. And what I'm seeing now, since I've studied somatic experiencing, is that a lot of trauma needs to be released from the body. So to be held in that way as well, where someone witnesses, and there's a beautiful, beautiful way, a method that we use in somatic experiencing called a corrective experience. So I'll give you an example. One of my clients had a high-risk pregnancy, and this happened during COVID, and she knew she was having a C-section, and when she arrived, the doctors said, your husband can't come in. And she was not expecting that. And she was so and that's not what happened. But let's just imagine if he had been there. What difference would that have made to you? If you could just imagine him standing next to you, holding your hand, just let your nervous system feel what difference that would have made for you. And straight away, like the body has different ways of releasing trauma. We could shake, or we could burp, or we could yawn, or tears could come, or heat can pass the body. And she just took this breath like, right? And it doesn't change the fact that he wasn't in the room what changes is that her nervous system could settle around that fact. That when she looks at this event now, she doesn't see the trauma of being alone. She feels, yeah, that was really tough. But there's an experience her nervous system has gone through of being present with what she needed. So also sometimes in medical procedures around fertility, there's a lot of invasive procedures that women aren't ready for, and they need just tenderness and kindness. Or the nurses or the doulas, well, usually the doulas are wonderful, but maybe the midwives or someone there has not been the support that they've needed. So we can go in and we can change that experience for them, or we can change something for them, that will help lessen the trauma in the system. So these are things that I discuss with my clients when they come, just to help release. And we don't go to the moment of the worst news that you heard that day. We start on the outside of, as you remember that day, let's just notice what's happening in your body right now. And let's try and release just that little piece. And then we can get a little bit more. Because what we do is, like, we have a container, let's say it's this size, and the trauma is this size. It's huge. It's filling up the whole container. And we just can't cope with it. So what we try and do in trauma therapy is we make the container bigger. Just when that woman thinks of her husband standing next to her, all of a sudden she can hold a little bit more because she doesn't feel alone. And that's what the nervous system is now processing. And you can't unhave that thought. That is now a new memory that has been planted in the system. You can't, even though it didn't happen that way, it's been there, and the nervous system has discharged and released some of the trauma around that.
Interesting. Yeah. So you have a website, right? You have a website, dkwellness.co.il.
Yeah.
What do you have there
Yeah.
exactly?
So I have the different therapies and treatments that I offer, and
Mm-hmm.
that is reflexology, which still to this day is one-on-one in person. And then I do logotherapy sessions, which I do online, and we create a safe space between myself and the client, very healing space. And I do also the somatic experiencing sessions, the trauma therapy. And I'm now also qualified as an internal family systems practitioner to be able to help people with the different parts of them that might be leftovers from different traumas that happened over the years. So this is what I offer on my website. And also just to let you know, like, when we go through difficulties, like my daughter has this sign on her wall which says, "We don't know how strong you are until being strong is your only option." Right? So exactly 1 year ago, just over a year and 3 months ago, I had a terrible accident. I fell on my head and I broke my neck.
Mm.
Terrible, terrible, frightening, traumatic experience. And I feel so blessed because, firstly, thank God I'm not paralyzed. I didn't die. Like, had the luckiest break possible in my C2 vertebra. And I feel so blessed to have all these tools behind me that could help myself with my own healing journey. Which then brings me to my book, which I wrote, which is, you see here sitting next to me, Man's Search for Healing. And you asked me in the beginning, before we came live, why do I call it Man's? And it's based on logotherapy, on Dr. Viktor Frankl's book, which is Man's Search for Meaning. And it's based on those principles because we're all searching for healing. We all want to just be healed in our lives. We want those difficulties, those struggles, those losses, and those pains to be settled in our lives. So the book is actually filled with all kinds of tools to be able to empower the reader to healing and wholeness and well-being. And then the book was actually finished, and then I broke my neck. So I had to take every chapter of the book and use it for my own healing. So I wrote a bonus chapter on how I broke my neck and how I used the tools of the book. So I feel it's a beautiful tool to share with people on how to help yourself. And if you still need more help after that, then to reach out for someone, to help you navigate the challenges or the difficulties.
Thank you so much for being here. I really enjoyed talking to you. For the last word, um, let's say somebody come to you, right? And you wanna say something to make her happy. She actually endure lots of traumas, and you're gonna help her. Give her one sentence of hope.
Mm. Mm. Giving her one sentence of hope. Yeah, I think the place where I would start is I would first look at, what have you already overcome in your life and how did you do that? Because we don't like go and search in other people's places, like what they did to help themselves. We need to find within ourselves what we already have. We've all been through struggles and difficulties in our lives, and we got through them if we got to this point. So what was it that helped you back then? And how can we make that alive for you now to help you with this now? That's what I would say.
Thank you so much, Devorah. Do you want to add anything else, or?
No, I just say thank you to you for this beautiful podcast that you're offering to just give healing to so many people, and bless you for that.
Thank you so much.
Please subscribe to Panta Kalhor Transition channel and order my book Naturally Conceived through Amazon. Thank you for watching.